And for some reason, we got on the subject of talking about how sometimes when people are in a relationship, they go and they talk to their friends about the problems they're having with their boyfriend, or
Or
he
husband
goes and
or
talks to his
wife.
mom about a problem he's having with his wife, and it's something that really bothers me because a relationship is a sacred thing. It's a sacred thing between two people, and if
Yeah.
you have a problem with somebody, you should talk to the person you have a problem with. You shouldn't take your problems outside of the relationship unless you're
Yeah.
seeking professional help.
Yeah, seeking professional help is a good reason to definitely do that. But I
Right.
think what most people do is they get into this, like, I don't know, it's like back in the 70s when we were kids, there was like the battle of the network stars. It always makes me think of that. Like there's some kind
Okay.
of battle
All right.
between the sexes, right?
Oh yeah.
And so the wives get together at the hair salon and they're kvetching and bitching about their
Right.
husbands, and
Right.
the guys are, I don't know, whatever they're doing, probably not so much bitching about their wives, but
Well, no, but
you
the
know when
joke
your friend is
it's not
upset
that
or not.
they're bitching about their wives, it's that they're all joking about who's more whipped, right?
Oh,
Or that's the complaint,
yeah.
right? Oh, you can't come with us, dude. What's wrong? You whipped, right? It's all that kind of crap. So I know this kind of sounds kind of silly, but we're actually talking about sacred partnership and sort of what's required to make a relationship sacred.
Yeah. And we would say the number one thing is exactly what came up the other night, because the people we were with we were in agreement. I think
Yes,
everybody, all of our friends were there in agreement,
everybody
basically
was in agreement.
saying if you're taking the problems outside of the relationship to your friends or to anyone that isn't your spouse or a professional, that it really kind of breaks that sacred trust.
Hmm.
And that if you're looking to have a sacred partnership, that you want to treat the relationship like something that is sacred.
Yeah,
And
keep
I would say there's a few things, I think, the rules that we have around here. I mean, I wouldn't
certainly.
call them rules, right? But I mean, they're agreements that we have. Like
Yes,
we don't bring up
yes.
the D word.
No, not if we're triggered and we're having an
Mm-hmm.
argument or a disagreement, and
Yeah.
people ask us, "Well, do you guys fight?" Well, sometimes we do because we're human.
Conflict is unavoidable.
Conflict is unavoidable,
Yeah.
and our we have certain agreements about how we handle those disagreements, right? We have agreements about our disagreements. And one of them is, we don't bring up the D word. We don't ever mention, I want to get a divorce, right? That's never
No.
part of the equation. We have agreements about taking pauses and calming ourselves down so that we
Mm-hmm.
can, we can speak from a more calm and centered place.
And I think that, I mean, back to this idea of the battle of the network stars. I mean,
Yes,
but I
yes.
do think that there's sometimes this way we talk about women talk about men or men talk about women, and it really bothers me. Like it really bothers me when colleagues of ours that we know are
Mm.
saying things about all men are whatever, or looking for a quality
A
guy.
quality
The
man.
quality man thing really bothers me because
Yeah.
it's like they hang there where all the other men are, number one, and then number two, quality is in the eye of the beholder, right? The
Well,
qualities that I would be looking for if I was single or when I was single are not necessarily the qualities, if you're listening right now, they might not be the qualities that you're looking for. And so this idea of a sacred partnership means that you're in a sacred agreement to treat the relationship as something that is sacred and special,
mm-hmm.
and it's worth honoring. It's worth,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times when there are disagreements and we're triggered, that a lot of people sort of revert back to old strategies, which is
Mm-hmm.
normal. I mean, every human being will do that. But when we don't look at it, when we're placing blame on our partner, right? When we think it's all about the way they're behaving, or if the D word happened, all your problems would go away. I
Right.
remember that happened with my brother years ago
Mm-hmm.
when his kids were still fairly young, and they were separated,
Right.
like they were legally separated, living in separate houses. And I remember my then sister-in-law reaching out to my brother and saying, well, I'm going to drop one of the girls off, because like, and it wasn't his turn to have her, and he was like, no, 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 it's not my turn to have her. Remember, all your problems were going to go away
Right.
if we simply split up. And now
Right.
she's like, oh, I'm going to dump our child off because you're not happy with the situation and I'm not there. Right. And so,
Right.
I mean, maybe he didn't handle it with the most finesse, knowing my brother, but I also think, we have these.
Well, before you go on, I want to go back
Yeah.
because you jump past the quality man thing, and I think there's more to say
Oh, I
there.
thought, okay, sure.
So if you find that you're dating men who are not of good quality, that's a you problem. That's not a guy problem,
Nope.
right? That's
That's
a you
right.
problem. And it comes back to another idea around sacred partnership, which is that you're taking responsibility for your half and only your half, right? But really, you are taking responsibility for your half, meaning you're taking responsibility for your triggers, you're taking responsibility for your behavior, you're taking responsibility for your communication, you're taking responsibility for your choices. And that if you don't like the people you end up in relationship with, then that's a you problem. That's something you need to take responsibility for and change.
I think that's true. I think we hear from a lot of people who are struggling to even. They always say, "Well, I can't even get a date," right?
Okay.
Whether it's men or women, we hear that a lot. I can't get a date, and when I hear that, I think this is a person who's looking for love. And what I realize is that they're looking through an online profile, expecting that they're going to have that, like Cupid with the little bow and arrow, it's
Right.
gonna peek, and you're gonna be like, oh, this is my person by looking at their picture or something. I think there's this unrealistic expectation that we're gonna like find our person in a profile.
Right.
And so I think this to have huge barriers to a date makes it really hard to find somebody to date. But if you're really in it to find a sacred partnership, then you need to sort of go, into like a dating lab kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I want to go back to the quality man because I don't think
Okay.
I actually I'm going to put the cherry on top
Let's
of all
do
of
it.
that.
Let's
Because
put cherry on.
when we hear all of this idea of like, oh, if you're looking for a quality man, go here, do this. And I know years ago we kind of made a joke about it, like, oh, the quality men are at this one particular Starbucks.
Right.
But
On a Tuesday on a full moon.
Only if the moon is full on
Yeah.
a Thursday. It's that Thursday and it's only that one Starbucks. And if you don't live near there, you're out of luck. And we said it as a joke because, again, what you're looking for is the qualities of what makes that person quality, for you. Might not be the same qualities in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
And that when we as women, when women talk that way about men, we wouldn't like it if men were lumping all women, like all, like women are what's that word?
I don't know.
Gold diggers.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Women are gold diggers. They're just looking for a guy with money or
Mhm.
something. And I think it's an odd thing. Like recently, Matthew Perry from Friends,
Right.
who played Chandler on Friends, if you watch Friends, and he came out with an autobiography. I haven't read the whole book, but I did read the little blurbs about it, and I thought it was interesting because it kind of wrote me in that Bait Click article. I think it was in People, online People magazine. And it said Matthew Perry's ready to find love or something like that. And
Okay.
I was like, okay, I got to read that, right?
Mhm.
And in the article, he had these high parameters. Like, here's a guy who was crazy successful in his 20s. We know he's a multi-bazillionaire, right? Because they negotiated together as a cast to make $1 billion an episode. And he said, well, he's ready for love. And there was this little caveat in this article that said he wants to make sure that that woman has her own money.
Okay.
That was one quality, right? That was in his parameters. And I know it's a celebrity, but follow me. Don't go away for a second. I want you to really get this because this is a really high bar, right? So she's got to have her own quote money.
Right.
But then in another spot in that little article, he mentions about how he really wants kids and he wants to have love and he wants to have a family. So what he's saying is that
he wants a young woman with her own money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's like me. So it's like I remember when you were vegan
Right.
and then you were gluten free. We
Just
went to
for
that
a short
restaurant.
period of time. Yeah.
So it's like for like a blip, we went to go see at that restaurant. We know the chef,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh, how are you guys?" And we were talking with him, and he and you said, "Oh, I'm trying to find something that's vegan and gluten free." And he I remember him making like a slice of pie with his hands. He's like, "Okay, if you're vegan, that means you're only eating in here, and if you do vegan and gluten free, it's like." You have these are your choices.
Right.
Like one, you're lucky to find one choice.
Yeah, you got
if
the
you're eating
vegetables
out.
and rice.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so it's like this idea that here's this guy who had crazy success and had his own money. And I understand why our brains do this. This is when you're only looking for love using only this organ, right? When you're only looking with your brain is going to do this thing of like, well, it needs to be exactly this kind of person. Like me, that would be my ideal person. And what I want to say is the reason why that doesn't work is because your heart doesn't care about that stuff.
Right. So
I should tell it to them. I was saying it to you. Your heart doesn't care.
Yeah, talk to them, not me. I'm right here.
Your heart doesn't care if that person has money in the bank or what kind of car they drive or how tall he is or what her measurements are or any of that stuff. And so when you're at odds, when your head and your heart are at odds, it's very difficult to navigate the world of dating. And if you're looking to create a sacred partnership, you're like working against yourself.
Yeah. So when we're talking about sacred partnership, let's go back. So the first thing is to make it sacred is you keep the issues between you.
Yeah, you don't go outside.
You don't share them with other people, right? The second thing is that you take responsibility for your stuff. You own your stuff and you speak from that place. The third place that we've talked about so far is that you have agreements around your disagreements, right? So it's not,
in other words, how to fight fair.
So that, when you're triggered, you can't just say anything and do anything and then expect it to just go away once you've calmed down like it never happened. There's some friends, right? Some new friends, then there are a couple, and they have these wicked fights and they never clean them up. They never go back and say, oh, I'm sorry that I behaved that way, and let me make it up to you. Here,
I'm sorry I said those things. I know those things hurt.
Yeah, and let me make it up to you. I want to make amends for my behavior, right? They never do that, and so they're stuck in kind of this cycle of the same fight over and over and over again. And I would guess that a lot of you who are joining us, who are divorced or struggling, that you've had that experience where you're stuck in a fight cycle with somebody, and it's because you don't have agreements around your disagreements.
Or another way to say that is how to fight fair.
Yeah.
Because the conflict is unavoidable. I mean, who here is conflict avoidant? Anybody?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah,
anyone?
Hello? Yeah.
Anybody?
Nobody likes conflict.
Yeah, nobody. I mean, look, we're all to some degree conflict avoidant. And the reality is being conflict avoidant is like the death to the passion of your love relationship. It's like death.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's like taking a hot fire, sizzly, yummy stuff, and throwing like gallons of water on that.
Right.
The fire just, and the reason is we hear all the time that opposites attract. Opposites do, and it's built into species survival. And I think people don't really understand like the biology of it. Opposites attract because if two people that are not alike come together and procreate, the likelihood of the family unit surviving is much more likely to overcome challenges if those two people are very different than if they're alike. Just like in business, when you have a C-suite of running a company, you look at that C-suite, you want diversity, you want different ideas, different opinions, different points of view, so that you can overcome those challenges that show up in business. And so nature works the same way. And it's really important to understand that you're going to have conflict. I don't care who you end up in relationship with. But the idea of a sacred partnership means, in a sense, that the fight is sacred. And I know this says a stretch, but I want you to understand that I know for us, a lot of times the argument, the conflict isn't really about the conflict.
It rarely is.
It's because we're disconnected. And so that almost, it's like that
well, not only are we disconnected from each other, but sometimes it's because we're disconnected from ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're anxious about something or worried about something, or something else is going on.
Or just wondering, we got something else on the brain. And so that conflict, I think part of our mission, as you all know, of course, is to bust the myth that love is supposed to happen by accident. It's like right there. It's right there on the screen. I pointed the right way the right first time. That was weird. That I always usually go, where is it? That right there, it says creating love on purpose, is because we don't believe in this myth of you're going to slip on a banana peel and meet this mythical, magical right person that, you'll never have problems with or whatever. And so it doesn't happen by accident. And so the second other myth, I think there's second and third and fourth and fifth and I don't know, 27 of them.
Before we go down,
no, I'm not going. I want to say the thing. Don't interrupt
me.
Say
the thing, and then we got to say the thing.
The myth is that conflict, if there's conflict, it's not your person.
Yeah.
That's the other myth that we want to bust.
Right.
That conflict is inevitable. I don't care who you decide to share your life with. It's going to happen. But treating your relationship as a sacred partnership Oh, now you can take that conflict and turn it into a deeper connection
Hmm.
so that your love grows over time.
So, what are we doing here? Who are you?
I'm Orna
And
Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. That's right, where we come in and intervene in your love life to get you off the path of frustration and heartache and on the path of long lasting, soul satisfying love.
Yummy, yummy. So we're going to have something really special if you hang on till I don't know, we might do it before the end of this broadcast, but we're taking your questions. This is an Ask Us Anything, like an AMA Ask Me Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Our episode topic tonight is sacred partnerships. But you can ask us anything you like. We get a lot of dating questions and we'll answer them. But if you have an out of the box, not dating question, that'd be great because we're talking about sacred partnerships. So if you have a question about sacred partnerships, we'll answer that too. And you can do that in the chat here.
There you go. If you're on Facebook, you can comment there. Give us a like, give us a share if you're on Facebook as well. Let other people know what's going on. If you're on YouTube, click the bell to subscribe. You can also comment on YouTube. Our team will grab your question and port it over here so that we get it. So wherever you are catching us here on Love Intervention, you can ask your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
We will do our best. As a matter of fact, shall we go ahead and jump into some questions?
I think, it's time.
Okay. Joanne says, I met a guy online, and he's coming to visit me for New Year's. He's flying in for a few days. I want it to go well. It's the first time we're meeting in person. What advice do you have? Don't have him stay with you.
Yeah, that's rule number one.
I don't know where you are. I mean, if it's Manhattan, that might be tough to get a hotel room. But the guy is, if you want a grown up, don't fix all his problems for him. I think this is something women do a lot of, is they try to fix everything. And if he's coming to see you, you kind of bend over backwards to make it easy. Don't make it easy.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
You have to make it hard.
Yeah, don't make it hard, but just don't make it easy. Like, in other words, if he's a grown up and he's traveled before, he knows how to book himself a place. And that person is still a stranger. So I know this is the toughest thing. We always tell people, don't invest your heart until you've met in person.
Right.
If it's the first time that you're going to meet in person, you have no idea if there's chemistry. You have no idea who this person is. They're a stranger. I don't care how long you've communicated with him from afar. You've not been in person. And so what our brain naturally does, and I don't want to explain how it does it, but put it simply, it fills in the blanks. So because you want to have feelings for this fellow, you might end up finding out that you don't have all the feelings once you're present with him in person. You might, but either way, you want to delay the physical intimacy, which is hard if he's staying at your place.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and that's if you want a relationship.
The other thing
let me just say this last thing. If you're just looking for a nice hookup for New Year's, then go for it. I mean, we don't judge. So, if that's what you're looking for. But if you're asking us about how to create a sacred partnership, that's tonight's topic, you want to delay the physical intimacy so that you spend some time getting to know who that person is. Because once you squeeze the tube out of the toothpaste, once you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back in there.
Just squeeze the tube out of the toothpaste.
I said it backwards. Are you making fun of me?
It's silly. So the other thing, you've kind of set yourself up for a situation that could be uncomfortable because he's coming for a few days. He's not just coming for one day. And he's also coming over New Year's, so it's a big event. So there's a lot of expectation that you've put into this visit, right? A lot of high expectation. And that could go either way, and it really puts a lot of pressure on something that doesn't need the pressure. And so whatever you can do to make it more casual and to make things so you don't have to spend all your time together the whole time he's there.
Correct.
It'd be nice that you had some time to yourself and he had some time to himself. As well, I would say you probably already booked a big fancy New Year's Eve thing.
Which is totally fine. If you've done that, that's fine. I don't think that's a problem one night. It's like going on a nice hot date on New Year's Eve.
You got it.
But I think manage your expectations.
Yes.
And that you want to have a conversation with this person about managing his expectations.
Especially when it comes to physical intimacy.
Yeah.
You want to have some conversations about where you are with that. You don't want to just, in the heat of the moment, suddenly, do something that, maybe you're not ready for.
Okay.
All right.
Stacy says, thank you for these love interventions and for taking our questions. You're welcome, Stacy. I have a question. I met a man online after taking a lot After talking a lot on the phone and texting, we met in person. After this, he wanted to be exclusive, requesting that I go off the dating site, and you agreed. And it seemed really important to him. And a few days later, I decided it was too soon. The question is, there seemed to be any thought that it would be understandable that a man would not want someone to be seeing that he doesn't want you to see other men. It's a matter of boundaries.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. A guy should want to scoop you up and take you off the market, but you abdicated your role in the relationship, because as the woman who dates men, it is your job to set the pace of the relationship. So he can always ask, but you do not have to fulfill every request that he makes of you. And you have the right to change your mind.
Yeah.
So this is where we talk about really mastering the uncomfortable conversation.
Well, but yeah, before we go there, I mean, just know a lot of men, like Orna said, they want to move fast.
Yeah.
And if this guy gets upset or decides that, oh, he's not comfortable with you, still dating other people, even though you just met once, right? That's a kind of a red flag you're going to pay attention to. That's why having these uncomfortable conversations right away is really important, because you see how somebody reacts, and it tells you a lot about who they are. The mistake I think a lot of people make is they go, oh, I screwed up and I tried to ask for this and it didn't go well, and now I lost him, right? If it doesn't go well, and he doesn't respond well and you'll lose him, then you really haven't lost anything.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is you can't say or do the wrong thing with the right person. We're not sitting here tonight talking to you and all of these other Tuesdays for Love Intervention because everything went right between us. We had plenty of things early on that came up, but we worked our way through it. Do you get it? So what you're looking for is when there's a disagreement, when you have to go back and say, oh, I'm sorry, I said I'd go offline, but actually I think it's too soon for us to be exclusive. And if that person has a freak out, then bye, sayonara, see you later. And if that person is like, oh, I'm a little disappointed, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, we don't really know each other. It is a little, right? So you're looking for that person that even in the uncomfortable conversation still treats you respectfully, still treats you with compassion, is still kind, is still willing to give you the opportunity to see that it's going to go somewhere and grow. And so I really want to stress this, that it is your job as the woman who dates men to set the pace of the relationship. And you said something about boundaries. So I'm just saying, like, if you have issues with boundaries and that's your big thing, oh gosh, we weren't going to say this till later, but I think I'm going to say it now. We're going to do our last Love on Purpose mentoring.
Yeah.
And I just really want people to understand that the mentoring group that we're putting together, our last one is going to start January 14th. So it's right around the corner. It's a really small, sacred group, and everything's going to stay right there. Nobody's going to go sharing other people's stuff. And we do create that sacred group because everybody gets to ride the coattails of everyone else's work. So this is not a soup to nuts kind of program. This is like, ooh, like if it was you, Stacey, like if you're like, I know my issues are boundaries and I'm not really good at setting and keeping boundaries, then that's what we'll focus on with you when you're in the love seat. So what's cool about Love on Purpose mentoring is every participant gets 2 opportunities in the love seat for personalized coaching, and everybody else gets to listen in and ride the coattails of everyone else's work. So it's tailored to the group, and there's a theme that always emerges. We've had a lot of fun with these groups, but there's other bigger things we want to do in 2023 that we've kind of put off. And we're doing this last group because we still had more people who, with the last one sold out, and they're like, oh, please do it again. And so this is it. This is like January 14th we start. And once this one sells out, I mean, we might not ever do it again. So it gives you a really great opportunity. There's tons of bonuses, and you can check it out at loveonpurposementoring.com. Ooh, you want to give them the goodies?
Yeah, there's a promo code LUV100 for $100 off anybody here who's on the Love Intervention if you want to join that program. So it's all in the chat there, promo code LOVE100.
With an LUV.
With an LUV. Funny. So, Stacey, I hope that answers your question. Feel free to jump back in. We were talking about boundaries, so here's a good one that's all about boundaries. Sally says, I'm tired of feeling like I'm last in my relationships. My mom, my ex, even my sisters are always asking for my help. I know they need me, but when is it my turn? How do I tell them no without getting everyone upset with me? Well,
How does she do that, Matthew?
Well, one, she doesn't worry about whether or not she's going to upset everybody because there is no magical way to say something that guarantees that somebody else isn't going to be upset, especially when you're trying to set a boundary. So, as long as you are respectful, as long as you're using I language and taking responsibility for your behavior and your choices, and you're not blaming other people for why you're doing what you're doing, then whether they get upset or not is more about them than it is about you. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to be comfortable, right? Setting boundaries can be really uncomfortable for you and for other people, and it can take a little bit of effort to have to do it over and over and remind people. I just want to remind you, I said I'm not available for this anymore, and that still holds. So, I'd appreciate it if you stopped asking.
Well, there's a couple things here because she mentions family
Yeah.
and family dynamics and family systems are kind of like imagine a factory assembly line, right? It's like each machine has its
Hmm.
little thing that it does to assemble the thing going down the conveyor belt. Or I'm making it up, right? But it's like there's this rhythm that happens as that thing is being happening,
Right.
and so the rhythm, your family dynamic are like, think of it like dance steps, right? It's like you do your dance steps and they do their dance steps. And it's a well worn dynamic. It's Sally, right? We're talking
Yeah.
Sally. So, Sally, it's like we
Yeah.
moved
Yeah.
the thing.
It is
Okay,
Sally. Yeah.
Sally, great. So, Sally, what I want you to understand your dance steps that it's like ruffling everybody else's feathers, right? It's like if you were
They
really
have to
dancing,
adjust. They're
yeah,
like, "Whoa, that's weird. This is
right.
not what I'm used to having."
And so you can take responsibility for that too, right? You get to say, "Ooh, wait a second. This is that really we have something that's going on here that you're changing the dynamic." And so people might be upset with you. And the thing is, if you're taking good care of yourself, you are not required to go into sacrifice. And you may have to pull back from some of these relationships. You may have to set the boundary and remind them, like Matthew said, but more importantly, make sure you're setting the boundary in a place that isn't an overcompensation, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times what happens if we're not good with setting boundaries is, oh, then we set this really hard boundary that's like really like you're gonna wall yourself off in the castle, and everybody's on the outside, on the other side, a moat full of alligators, right? So you don't have to push everybody far away. You can just start to make changes a little bit at a time.
One other,
I think there's something really important here because we
yeah.
just saw another note from our team that somebody's asking, is the Love on Purpose mentoring set up like this where we're answering questions? And I want them to understand it's nothing like this.
Well, there is some
like,
coaching
ooh.
like this, but it is more
Yeah.
deeper process work. I want to finish with Sally and then talk about that, if that's okay.
Sure.
So another piece about setting boundaries is we want to teach you a really effective tool, which is when somebody asks you something, your answer, instead of saying, yes, I'll do that,
Yes.
and then later going, oh, crap, I just agreed to something, your answer to them is, let me think about it.
And I'll get back to you.
And I'll get back to you. Or let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you, right?
Or even better, you can say, let me think about it. Could you follow up with me? Like put the ball in their court to follow up instead
That's
of.
even better.
That's even better.
And what you're going to do while you're quote unquote thinking about it is you're not going to think about it. You're going to feel about it. You're going to say, what does it feel like for me to agree to that thing? Does it feel good? Does it feel easy? Does it feel like, yeah, that feels great? Or does it feel like, oh my God, another thing, and oh, my stomach, and oh. If it's any of those second things, then your answer is no. You're gonna, when they get back to you, you're gonna say, I'm sorry, I'm not available to do that. And you don't have to explain. You don't have to give any more details than that. You don't have to say, well, I don't really feel like it. It doesn't feel good to me, or
you just say I'm not available.
You just say I'm not available. Sorry, I'm not available.
I want to share something because I think a lot of times when we're used to going above and beyond with the people in our lives, that it's really uncomfortable to make that change. And sometimes you do need help to make the change. We had a client years ago and she was divorced, and it was her stepdaughter who was a grown up with kids. So it's like the ex stepdaughter. I mean, I know she didn't think of her like an ex stepdaughter. She was married to the dad for a long time, and that she was part of that person's life for a long time as the stepmom. And this person who was a grown up who had kids of her own and a husband of her own called our client and said, I'm getting this promotion at work. It's this big deal, and I have to go and do this big training. Will you help with the kids? And immediately our client's response was to take all the duties of taking care of the kids during this certain time frame. And suddenly she was like, oh, I can't do all that.
Right.
So she
She went
made
into
the
overwhelm.
commitment and she went into overwhelm about it. And so we really did some work coaching her to go back and renegotiate the agreement to say, this is what I'm able to do. And you'll have to figure out other people to cover these other, duties, other days, other things, so that, she could fill in, X amount, right? X amount of time and not the whole time. But what we found so interesting about this particular client was it never dawned on her from the beginning to only take a portion of the time, and to that
Right.
it was like this given that she would just do all of it. When the request was, can you help? It wasn't in the way that family dynamic had been set up. It was set up so that when she was asked for something, it was like an all deal. It's like, oh, will you do all of this to help? And I think sometimes those unspoken agreements can sometimes, again, you're ruffling everybody's feathers when you make the change, but ultimately it's better for yourself, right? To take good care of yourself. You were never responsible for how somebody responds to your communication. I think a lot of times people get in trouble because they think that they're judging the success of their communication based on the response they get from the other person.
Right.
And you're never responsible for the other person's response. You are responsible for the way you communicate, but you're not responsible for their response to you. Their response actually informs you of who they are and what they're capable of. And this is like really gold stuff that we get into really deep when we're working with our clients. But we're not coaching this way in the, like, I really want to circle back to that because I think that's really important. We had somebody in our last mentoring group that signed up thinking it was going to be more like this, like a Q&A. So when you're in the love seat, that's actually not really a Q&A type situation. It's a real deep dive because our active meditation processes create learning in an experiential way. And so you actually go through an experience when you're in the love seat. And so, we have that saying, it's like riding a bike. And we say that because once you know how to balance that bicycle all on your own, you can't then unhave that experience. And that's what we do in the love seat, is we give you a new experience of love, right? Or of setting boundaries or of whatever, right? And so when you have that new experience, that experiential learning is in you. It's not cognitive coaching, just talking with your big prefrontal cortex in mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have more questions. Yes.
Let's see. Oh, we got a guy here. So, the women I like, I'm always working hard to impress. And the women who like me, well, they don't float my boat. I always thought I'd have a family by now. I really want kids. I feel stuck and I don't know why. Can you help me? Certainly we can, Jake. And you kind of, we don't have all the information, but you kind of described what we would call a double bind there, where you have, on the one hand, you're working to impress women who, maybe don't seem to respond well, and on the other hand, women who like you don't like them, and so there's this sort of push-pull inside of you, and that's the place where you're stuck. And it really, once again, if we talk about taking responsibility, it's about do you like yourself? Because it seems like you're chasing rejection and you're rejecting people who like you.
Ooh.
Just a thought.
Just a thought. I'd love to hear more from you, Jake, if you're on still, if you're live, since you typed into your question in there. I'd love to hear if that really touched a nerve for you or not. Because I think when you're chasing rejection, that's like your thing. That's like your deal.
It's certainly certainly was my thing. Yes,
it was
when I was younger. You know, any woman who was really into me, my first thought was, "What's wrong with you?" And the second thought was, "Wait till you get to know me." So, I totally get that story.
Here's one for you.
All right. You want to read it?
Sure. Jackie says,
well, actually, before we do that, let's tell everybody what's going on here.
Oh, hello, everybody. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your love life, to get you off the path that's leading you towards frustration and heartache, and on the path that leads you towards the long-lasting, soul-satisfying love you desire. And we know that path well because we've been doing this work for over 13 years. We've been helping people get on that path. And this isn't rocket science, but it's also not something that we're taught as children growing up. We are not taught as teenagers, we are not taught as young adults how to develop relationships that really last. We're not taught how to communicate.
Yeah.
We're not taught how to date.
Or select a partner.
Or select a partner. We're not taught any of those things. And so hopefully we're here to fill in those gaps for those of you who, no matter what age you are, you're still struggling.
Yeah. It's never too late to find the love of your life.
Yeah. If you're on Facebook, give us a like, a share. You can ask questions
you can ask
in the
your
comments.
Questions. Yep, right there on Facebook. Our team will port them over here. YouTube, click the bell to subscribe wherever that bell is. You'll be notified when we do this again. And I just want to give a shout out to our team. We'll thank you at the end, but thanks, team, because they bring all that stuff over here and tell us things that you're saying out there on the world and other places. Okay, Jackie says for Matthew, that's what caught my eye. She says, I'm a spiritual person and I want a spiritual man. Okay. Is there such a thing? I'm asking Matthew specifically because I'm tired of hearing a woman's take on men. So what say you, Matthew? How do I find myself a spiritual man?
Well, I mean, that's an odd question because there isn't like a place, or there isn't like a.
They're not all hanging out at
they're
that
not
Starbucks?
all hanging out at that Starbucks. So it depends on what you mean by spiritual. I mean, is it specifically Christian? Is it Jewish? Is it New Age? Is it yogi? I mean, what kind of spirituality you're talking about, and is that important to you? There's a lot of unspoken questions here, Jackie. So I'd like some more information on that. But I will say this: that a man who's spiritual may or may not do it the way you do it. I think oftentimes we speak to a lot of women who do a lot of personal growth, and they're always looking for men to join them on that journey. And men don't always do it that way. Men, sometimes it's a very personal journey. I know for a lot of men, and I always like my brother as a perfect example. He's never taken any personal growth workshops. He's read some books, but he has figured a lot of things out on him by himself because he's a very much a do-it-yourself kind of person. He built his house. He rebuilt cars and boats, and he's got a 9-acre piece of property that he farms. Well, not farms, but he's got horses, right? And he grows food there.
It's a farm.
It's a farm, and he does all that stuff himself, and he uses that time and that space to work out whatever stuff is going on with him. And I've heard the most profound things come out of his mouth, and I'm like, "Where did you read that?" He says, "Oh, no, I just figured that out."
I think a lot. I'm going to say this. I think a lot of women have an unrealistic expectation that their guy is going to be just like them, but have a penis.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, ladies, oh my God, it'd be awful. I wouldn't want to be with somebody like me. I mean, I love me. I'm awesome. But I don't want to be, it's too much Orna. You know what I mean? Like enough Orna in one person. I don't need like, another. It's not the way it works. You end up with somebody who has different strategies than you, has different, maybe slightly different beliefs than you. Really the glue that holds two people together year after year. And this is the thing that people, we say it all the time, that if you're looking for lasting love, then you got to move into love slowly. You got to do slow love. And everybody's in a hurry, right? Like this guy earlier, right? He wants to scoop you off the market.
Yeah.
He shouldn't want to scoop you off the market.
Doesn't mean you allow him.
It doesn't mean you let him take you off the market yet, because you don't have enough data to go exclusive yet. So you got to have enough data. You got to know how to date in the dating lab to collect that data and then know how to filter through it so that it's, so that the data, you make the most of gathering the data. So you've got to gather data and then make the most of it. What you're looking for ultimately is somebody that makes your heart skip. So you got that chemistry stuff there. That's like that little charge.
Right.
That also values the same things as you. So what's wrong with this, right? Like pretend we're on like a third date. Hey, I've really been having fun getting to know you.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I was just curious, do you value honesty?
Sure.
Is anyone ever going to say anything different?
Right. Are they going to say, no, I don't value honesty. I'm just telling you the truth here. I lied to you 5 minutes ago, right?
Nobody's gonna cop to it. And so one of the reasons why slow love and taking it slowly is because you only discover what somebody's values when you spend time with them. I mean, we had a client in like 2016, I think, 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And she was really heartbroken because she was in a relationship with this guy and then discovered she was the other woman.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is she really valued family. Like she's really close with her family, her parents, and she has kids from a previous marriage. And it was one of these things where she was so thrown off that she just, like, her whole world was turned upside down, because never in a million years did she ever think she'd be the other woman. But she never met his family. So she asked him, like, oh, come to meet my family. And he was kind of resistant, but she was never invited. He never invited her to meet his family. And there was a reason for that, because he was dating somebody else, and that person was meeting the family. And so you really want to be careful to jump to conclusions and rush in with somebody, right? Because somebody who says they value family, but you never meet their family, or you don't ever have you're not part of that dynamic of them spending time with their family, there's something that's off. And so you want to take your time, because the other person is a stranger. You can't just jump in with the feels, right? Somebody that gives you all the feels might not be a match for you. And so you've got to have, like, your head and your heart and your groin sort of all in alignment for it to be your person, where it's going to last over time.
Yeah.
All right. Did you pick another one?
What else we got here? I'm going to go back up here.
Okay.
Adam says, my younger brother is getting married, and my entire family is all over me asking when I'm going to find myself a wife.
Oh.
My cousin asked me if I'm gay, and not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, I know I'm straight as can be. I just want to know how to navigate the holiday season when everyone will ask me again and again why I'm still single.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need to have just clear boundaries with people about this kind of stuff. We're talking about boundaries a lot today. Clearly, the holidays. The holidays are coming up, and that's where people really need boundaries, is because family, and that's it. Just because family. Period.
Yeah, just because ... family, all capital letters, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation point. I mean, the reality is there aren't other people on the planet that can push your buttons more than family does.
Yeah.
And look, you can love your family and they can push your buttons. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive. They all go together in a package. And when you're worried about how somebody's going to respond to your responses, what we want to say is, what's more important to you, your peace of mind or your peace with this other person who, in a sense, is like judging you, in a sense, right? To say to somebody, well, why are you still single? And I know that they're trying to do something nice. I mean, look, I was so frustrated and single for so many years. I remember being at a wedding where, because the next question, right, especially when you're single at a wedding, it's just ick. And so I told everybody I was a lion tamer, because it was such a bizarre thing to say. And so nobody started asking about my relationship status. Like, they
were asking about you being a lion tamer?
Yeah, I went out. It was a wedding. It was a destination wedding.
Okay.
So it was a destination wedding. And so I didn't, there's like very few people that knew me that, knew I wasn't a lion tamer. Most of them were in the wedding party, so they weren't in the reception with me. So I just told everybody I was a lion tamer so that, we didn't have to talk about relationship status too much. And what I want to say is, you can deflect. I was very creative at deflecting that wedding. Or you could just say, yeah, I really don't want to talk about it. You could just put it off by saying, I don't want to talk about it. Or you can say, gosh, that's definitely a goal I have. I'm working my way towards it.
Yeah. Period. End of sentence.
End of sentence.
Thanks for your concern. I've got it under control.
I'm working on it. Definitely my goal. Definitely a goal that I have. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
And just move along to another person, right?
Or change the subject. Just one sentence, answer, period, and move on.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually, they'll stop asking, because if they ask again, just give them the same answer. Just repeat the same answer.
Yeah.
You're basically letting
And
people
I just
know.
want to say, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Adam. I really am.
And
I know-
congratulations to your younger brother.
Yeah, and congratulations to your younger brother. I mean, I know family has this, a lot of families have the expectation that if you're the older, you'd get married first, whatever. We don't want to put any pressure on you. Like, I just want to love you up. And I just want to say, there's nothing, you know, you're working it at your pace. And if you need help, we're here to help you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Or I should say, if you'd like our help. If you'd like our help, we're here to help you.
Okay, Sarah. Sarah's got an interesting one. My BFF is dating my ex, and our mutual friend just told me he's going to propose.
Ugh.
This is my worst nightmare. They've only been dating 8 to 9 months, at least that I know of. I don't want them back or anything. I just feel weird about the whole thing. Well, yeah, feeling weird that's a normal response, to feel weird and angry and sad and hurt and frustrated and everything else that you're going to feel through this process. So, allow yourself to feel those feelings. Don't
They're
judge
appropriate.
them. They're all appropriate.
All of those feelings are appropriate. And I think, should that actually happen, then, it depends on the level of connection you have with this friend. You say BFF. I know a lot of people say that, but they have like a BFF per decade, right? Like your BFF from childhood that you're still in touch with, or your BFF from college or whatever. So I don't have a lot of information to be able to guide you that much. But I think Matthew really hit the nail on the head by saying that all your feelings are appropriate. You're going to want to take time to process them and feel them, because skipping over them, and that, if your friend ends up engaged to your ex, I think to know how you feel about it once you're on the other side of really feeling all of those feelings. Like, I wouldn't have a conversation with her right away about it once they're engaged. But I think if it's something that you're not able to really, that you need to have some kind of conversation with her about it to be able to be happy for them. Like, maybe you write yourself a letter, like, what, answering the question, right? What do you need to be happy for them, right? What would you need from her, right? What would you require to then wish her well in this endeavor? And that's the question you really want to find out. But you've got to move through the emotional turmoil first, and so don't skip that step.
Yeah.
There is something on our site, on our blog, with tons of articles on our blog. Do y'all know that? I'm like, sometimes we're here every other week, and I think sometimes we refer to the blog and sometimes we don't. There's literally hundreds of articles on our blog.
And they're searchable.
Yeah. So if you go to loveonpurpose.com, go to the blog, search the golden nugget. And it is about getting over an ex. You may want to do that with a friend. You may want to do that with the ex, right? So like with the situation, there's a lot of really deep sort of work that's we lay out there in the golden nugget exercise. So if you are struggling, if you're still hurt about a breakup, if you're working at forgiving somebody, the golden nugget exercise will set you free from that. You can find it right on our blog, and all the steps are there and everything. Because I think that's a big one. That's a tough one. And you have every right to feel weird. I'm going to say one more time, your feelings are appropriate. I'm sorry you're going through that. And don't rush to that conversation with your friend. Just let your feelings settle first. Go through that. It's like, if you're going to think of it as like your feelings are like a simmering in the volcano, right? You don't want to do anything right away. You want to just let everything kind of settle back down again. Feel the feelings.
Okay.
Even the icky ones. Okay. I'm going to read Orly's question because I know what kind of name she's got. Similar to Orna. So, hello. Hi, Orly. She says, I'm a first generation Canadian. My dad's a Holocaust survivor. I've been told my whole life to only marry a Jewish man. It's family again. I think my boyfriend is going to propose probably New Year's Eve. I love him. He's my ideal guy, and I want to spend my life with him. What do I say to my parents? Help. I've always been the one to keep the peace at home.
I'm assuming by this question that your boyfriend is not Jewish. It doesn't say specifically.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a given, the way she wrote it.
Yeah.
She's supposed to marry a Jewish guy. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was told the same thing, and I'm married to not a Jewish guy. So I don't know. that, I mean, it's tough. I think when you make the decision about who is going to be your spouse, that you have to really, as that grown up person making that decision, really, when you tell your parents, and if they've never met him or don't know that you're even dating him, you might want to pull back and start there,
Yeah.
whether your boyfriend proposes or not. That if you're close with your parents, which it sounds like you are, because you feel have some guilt around not honoring um, their decree,
Right.
right? They made this decree. And so being told your whole life you have to marry a particular kind of person, again, your heart doesn't care.
Yeah, I would say this. I mean, you're clear if your dad's a Holocaust survivor, you're not in your 20s, you're not in your 30s, you're not even probably in your 40s, right? You're older in life, and so I would hope that what your parents desire is your happiness.
Yeah.
And so I would go from that mindset that what they really want is for you to be happy, and you know, it's not your responsibility that they like your choices. I know that's hard to say, and especially if you're have the habit of being the one who likes to keep the peace and keep everybody happy, and maybe put your wants and needs aside in order to do that. But
Maybe
eventually,
that's time to break that habit.
yeah, it's time to break that habit. It's
Yeah.
time to step up and ask for what you really want from life, and you deserve it. You really
Yeah.
do. So
I mean, you don't sound like a
I don't
spring
think you're going to
chicken.
lose your parents from
Yeah.
this.
And then that they have to be okay with your choices, and like Matthew said, I think that's where you start. That and again, whether your boyfriend proposes or not, if they've not met him at all, I think
That's a good
time.
start.
Yeah, it's a good start that they meet him, that they know who you're with. And we've had a lot of clients struggle in this particular arena or similar things, where they're worried because parents don't immediately take to the person that they're going to marry, and it's okay if that's something that, just like we told, I think it was Sarah with the BFF is
Right.
maybe getting engaged to her ex. That I said, feel your feelings and then let them settle. Your parents might need to do that. Your parents might have a lot of feelings about you being with somebody who's not Jewish, and those are their feelings. So I think this is kind of like, this is the opportunity for you to grow past their vision of who you are and really go for what your heart's desire is, so that you can. That's part of the maturation process, right? It's part of growing up. And like Matthew said, if your dad's a Holocaust survivor, you're not going to be 20, 30 years old. And so, this is time where you make decisions for you that are best for you, and you let them know why you're making those decisions. I once said to somebody that when we love somebody, I really believe this too, I didn't just say it to them, that when we love somebody, we support their choices. We don't judge them.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what you ask. You ask your parents to support your choices of boyfriend or husband, should it come to that, to that point, that you ask them to support your choice and to not judge it.
All right.
Are we going to do one more?
Well,
are we
let's
say
just
who we are again?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and you've been here with us for Love Intervention, where we get you off the path to frustration and heartache and on the path to long-lasting love. For those of you on Facebook, once again, you can always put your comments, like and share, spread this around, let everybody know.
Or ask a question right there in the comments, and our team will port it over here. And on YouTube, please click the bell wherever it is. I think it's down here somewhere. Click the bell, subscribe to our channel. That way you'll be notified when we're doing another live. We'll be back in 2 weeks, by the way. We do this every other week, where we take your questions. We always start with a topic. Tonight's topic that we started with was sacred partnerships, how to create a sacred partnership. And one of the things that we want to sort of recap again is this idea of, if you want your relationship to be sacred, then you both have to treat it as such. So you don't go outside the relationship with issues unless you're meeting with a professional, and you have agreements around your disagreements. The way you said
and
it.
you take responsibility for your stuff, right? But yeah. Exactly. And there's probably more to it, but I think that's a great groundwork for how to be in relationship, a great foundation for how to be in relationship.
Okay.
We're going to take this last question.
I think so. Trudy says, I'm ready to go exclusive with the guy I'm dating. Woo, right on. Things are going well, but he hasn't asked me to go exclusive. How do I find out where he is without scaring him off? I always have guys disappear on me when this happens. Help. Well, you cannot guarantee he's not going to be scared off.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
If he's a frightened little mouse,
yeah,
then
if he's a little frightened chipmunk, when you, so it is not your job to ask for exclusivity. I know you're gonna think I'm telling you that you're dating in the 50s, but you're gonna end up a lot happier when you're in a relationship with a guy who's pursuing you for a relationship. It sounds like your guy is happy exactly how things are. So if a guy is not moving and progressing the relationship to move forward, he may want to do that faster than you would like. But if he's doing it slower than you like, then I think you have to really have
I don't know if we're ready to go there yet. I want to jump in here.
You want to jump in? I'm going to let you jump in.
I don't think you have enough information. So I think your first step is to just let him know where you are. To say, I've been looking at what's online and I've been enjoying us getting to know each other. And to be honest, I'm taking my profile down. I'm not going to be, going on any other dates. I'd certainly love to know where you are, but I just want to let you know how I feel and what's going on with me.
That was good stuff.
Right.
That was good
so
stuff.
You just basically say, this is where I am.
Yep.
And you throw it into his court.
You just served it over, and now he's got to either hit it or let it go past him. I mean, I don't think you have enough information. I don't know. You don't give a time frame on how long you've been dating. You just said you're ready to go exclusive, and you don't know if he is. I mean, have you been on 3 dates? Have you been going out for 3 months? Have you been going out for a year? We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a little difficult for us to narrow in, and that's why I was struggling. But that's really good advice. Let him know where you are. And I would say if he's not moving you towards exclusivity and it's been several months, that you can certainly keep him in a rotation, but you must continue to date other people and be busy.
Yeah.
Fill your dance card, so to speak. And when he asks, if you're available, you'll say, "Oh, I actually have another date." And it might dawn on him that if he doesn't want you going out with other guys, that he should ask for you to go exclusive. So those are 2 options, I think. But until somebody wants to scoop you off the market, that really is the guy's, the woman sets the pace in the relationship, but you're responding to how the guy is. Usually they're moving too quickly from our experience when it's an ideal match. The guy
when it's a guy who wants a relationship, he usually moves things quickly. Guys who generally like convenience, but not necessarily commitment, tend to leave things in the gray. They tend to be vague. They tend to let you lead. And, as soon as you sort of put the ball in their court, that's when the thing fizzles out.
Generally.
Just not always true, but most of the time it's true. Yeah, it's true.
So I'm going to put this one more time in here. We have one more Love on Purpose mentoring group. And that's because the last one filled and we had some people saying, please do it again. We start January 14th. All the details are at loveonpurposementoring.com. You can use promo code LUV100. It has to be all capital letters. This promo code will give you $100 off. You can join us at loveonpurposementoring.com. It is nothing like this love intervention. We're not answering questions. We're actually doing really deep work with our active meditation processes. This is designed to get you unstuck. So if you're one of those people that's struggling to get a date, or if you're struggling because nobody asked you to go exclusive, or wherever it is in that dating process where you tend to get stuck, this is to get you unstuck. So it's to have that big breakthrough to love. That's what we do in Love on Purpose Mentoring. So we have other programs that are like soup to nuts and all the stuff you need on the journey. This is, if you're feeling stuck, this gets you unstuck. And there will be, I think we have one guy, so it's not all ladies, by the way. We do allow all genders, and we help all people.
Yeah.
So you don't have
all
to
genders and all
sexual orientations. Yeah. So all genders, it could be in the gray. I know that sometimes when we give advice to women dating men, it sounds like we're giving advice to somebody dating in the 50s, but I promise you that's not the case, because We know that most women, when they're leading and moving the relationship forward, at some point, 3 to 6 months into that, they wanted to switch and they want the guy to then pursue them. And if you were happy pursuing, then you would continue to do it and nothing would change, right? And you'd be asking that guy for exclusivity.
And
so
you'd be asking him ultimately to marry you when it came down to it.
yeah, and so
And if
it
that's
doesn't
the
mean
kind of
those
relationship you want, that's fine. That's
Bingo.
totally fine.
So if you want to be the woman who's sort of driving the relationship forward, that means you're always going to be in that position. We just find that most women aren't satisfied with that and they want it to switch. We hear all the time, when is he going to step up for me?
It doesn't switch.
It doesn't switch. So that's why we give those parameters for heterosexual women dating men, right? Otherwise, we could switch the gender and have a lot of fun with that, because we do with all of our clients. We've had every kind of human being. We're going to be back in 2 weeks.
That'll be January 3rd.
We'll see you in the new year, January 3rd, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for the next love intervention.
Yeah.
You can also reach out to us if you have a particular topic that we haven't covered yet. You can email us at support, SUPPORT, at loveonpurpose.com. I want to say thank you to our team. We couldn't do it without you. We so appreciate you being here and porting all those questions over and running this whole thing here, because it's very complicated the way we stream into all these different places.
Yeah.
So thank you. And most of all, thank you, our Love on Purpose community. We wish you a joyous holiday season filled with many blessings and miracles. We're very grateful for you.